We don't call our licensees. We call them partners because we need products developed for us in many cases to buy back. So we don't just sign a license, get some revenue, and then, have a nice day. We sign a license with partners. We need those partners to be winners, okay? So we need a product eventually to come back to us.
Welcome to the Transfer Files, inside the world of federal innovation. This is your insider's look at how federal laboratories bring groundbreaking technologies to market. I'm your host, Andrea Nelson. In every episode, we'll bring you insights and expertise from throughout the world of tech transfer. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Edward Diehl, PhD, a commercialization officer in the Office of Medical Technology Transfer for the U.S. Army Medical Research and Development Command, US AMRDC, under the Defense Health Agency. He has decades of experience evaluating and developing life science technologies. He's been on the faculty at Barry University and Northwestern University School of Medicine. He has worked as a senior scientist developing cancer diagnostic tests. He's held entrepreneurial roles at several startups, and he founded a life science consulting firm now called Pathway Biotechnology. In this conversation, we dive into the fascinating world of medical innovations born from military needs and how these technologies find their way into civilian applications. From groundbreaking pharmaceuticals and vaccines to cutting-edge diagnostics and software, Eddie talks about some of the amazing technologies coming out of the Army's research. He also explains how and why his office puts such a heavy emphasis on partnerships and something called assistive technology transfer. Please enjoy my conversation with Eddie Diehl. Welcome, Edward Diehl, Commercialization Officer in Medical Technology Transfer for the U.S. Army Medical Research and Development Command within the Defense Health Agency. Thank you so much, first and foremost, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thanks to you and thanks to FLC for having me.
The medical technologies coming out of the U.S. Army Medical Research and Development Command include pharmaceuticals, diagnostics, vaccines, devices, software, and AI and machine learning. Could you tell us some of your lab's commercialization successes that stand out to you or might be familiar to our listeners?
Yeah, the first one would be Artesunate, which was licensed to a small company, and the FDA just approved that one. It's an antimalarial. And that was approved recently. And so now that's going to be available to give to DOD personnel as well as civilians. A couple of years ago, probably actually more like 10 years ago, a drug called IXIARO. It is a Japanese Encephalitis vaccine. And this was approved. And it's now available to a military that's going to be positioned in Japan, other areas east of us, and it's also available to civilians in Japan and other areas. Another technology that I would comes to mind is the 2B Alert. It's a smartphone alertness app. It uses AI to learn how an individual responds to sleep deprivation. This was developed by Telemedicine and Advanced Research Center, or TATRIC. It provides recommendations that are customized for each individual to reduce or eliminate deficits due to sleep deprivation. That's been a great technology. Another one that comes to mind is the ArmedXpert. It's basically DNA deconvolution software for forensics. Sometimes crime scenes, there are multiple samples of DNA there from multiple sources. And this technology can help forensic scientists pull apart the different DNA samples, and you can use this later as evidence in court proceedings. So that's been a great technology. So I think that's a couple of good examples.
It seems to me that because of the nature of the research
the medical research that this technology transfer is originating from, that it might need less sort of adaptation and transformation than some other federal agencies, but that the distinction might be more in the environment, that maybe certain technologies are developed for more extreme defense environments and then are adapted to the market. Is that accurate? And how does that impact the technology transfer process?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Our research in DOD and DHA is directed towards things that affect the warfighter. So we don't do cancer unless it's something that affects a lot of DOD personnel. We leave that to NIH. They're very good at doing cancer research. But we're working on things that are combat related, okay? Things like blood products, blood substitutes, injuries that happen a lot to warfighters. Also infectious diseases that, maybe you don't find these infectious diseases in the United States, but you might find them in Africa or Asia or places where the warfighter, the US warfighter, might have to be deployed, and we never know where that is. So you're right. A lot of these researchers are focused on more targeted technologies, targeted at the warfighter. But as I said, these are almost always dual use technologies that could be used in civilian markets as well.
And the medical technology transfer office that you work in refers to itself as an assistive technology transfer entity, or assistive T2. Can you explain that distinction and how it may differ from other tech transfer offices?
Yeah, our office works with technologies that need a partner. Okay, we don't call our licensees. We call them partners because we need products developed for us in many cases to buy back. So we don't just sign a license, get some revenue, and then have a nice day. We sign a license with partners. We need those partners to be winners. Okay, so we need a product eventually to come back to us that we can buy and use with our warfighters. So, like other branches of the federal government, we require each prospective licensee to fill out an application. Tell us who you are, your financing. Do you have the wherewithal to do this? What's your development plan for the technology? We make folks really think about this. And I think it's a great exercise for the prospective licensee as well as us. And the end goal is to get a product for us. And that's, I think, one aspect of assistive technology transfer that's very important. We look at tech transfer as kind of a three-dimensional environment of science, business development, and commercialization, right? With that partnership in mind. Especially when working with startups, you hit that thing called the valley of death. We're partners. We try to help our partners work through funding strategies. We make sure that they're aware of every funding that's available from the federal government and from local sources as well. We're in the state of Maryland. There are some assistance programs especially for small businesses. We don't expect our licensees, our partners, to go out there and find everything. Don't just sign a license and say, good luck with funding. We help. Sometimes we know people who might invest, or we know groups that might invest, or we put them in touch with, for instance, SBIR program people. We have some of them as part of AMRDC. So we assist any way really that we can. We don't expect our partners to do it all.
Your background with a number of years in industry and then leading your own consulting firms must come into play every day in your work. How has that sort of teed you up for this position?
In 25, even Well, I guess I started graduate school. It's almost 40 years, but we've come a long way, right? Graduate school. I remember I was there maybe a year or two, and these things called computers came out, and we bought a leading edge computer with a 10 megabyte hard drive. And about a year or two later, we spent a bunch of money to get a 30 megabyte hard drive. Now it's like there's probably songs out there on the internet that would take up 30 megabytes. So we've come a long way, especially in computer technology. Now AI is even helping us predict drug and antibody design, and that's going to get better. That's certainly a change that's taken place over the last 5-10 years. I think data security is a major issue, and that'll continue to be the case, not only for our researchers, but also for tech transfer personnel. That has become more of an issue over the last 25 years. Things like the speed of e-publications. We work with researchers. They have to disclose their inventions to MTT and to other folks within MRDC, JAG, for instance, the Judge Advocate General Office. These publications are now, it isn't like it used to be where you send something in for review and maybe it takes 6 months, maybe it takes 8 months with revisions and questions. Now these things can come out fast. And so we have to be really coordinated with our researchers, to make sure that the publications don't come out before the invention disclosures come our way and we're able to look at them. But, in the end, I think finding the right industry partners to license our technologies and turn them into products, that process remains overall, I think, about the same. Although finding the right industry partner is a challenge. And our office is actually working on that right now to develop a new technology, which we think will be a fantastic technology to help find the right industry partner. And invite me back next year for another podcast, and maybe I'll be able to tell you a little bit more about that one. But that's an ongoing project that we're very excited about.
That's very suspenseful. You're going to leave us with that cliffhanger. We'll definitely have you back.
I always want you to invite me back. So now there's a little bit of the carrot on the stick for you.
Perfect. And you just mentioned disclosures, and I actually wanted to bring up the US AMRDC has an invention evaluation committee with members from your office, the Medical Technology Transfer Office, as well as IP experts, subject matter experts, and inventors. And this committee holds monthly meetings in which they evaluate invention disclosures. Can you tell us more about this approach and why it works so well for MRDC?
Yeah, I think a lot of universities have a committee like this. I think our committee is quite robust because, as you just said, it's members of tech transfer. It's also members of Judge Advocate General, our internal counsel, the IP experts, and other personnel that are subject matter experts who are scientists, also military experts who might use the technology or might have to deploy the technology. So I think our Invention Evaluation Committee is just a great group of people that can come up with, that not only evaluate the technology, but make the right decisions, the right business decisions on whether to file a patent or how to file or exactly what to do with the inventive steps in the technology. So it's a great group. We're lucky to have that.
In the coming years, what technologies or areas of research do you expect to be central for your office?
Well, it's you already mentioned it's drugs, diagnostics, devices, and software. Vaccines certainly, I think, are going to become more and more important. This past pandemic really showed us the importance of having vaccines, and there are a lot of infectious diseases out there that we're aware of, that we're working on. that are endemic in other regions of the world, not the United States. And again, we never know where we have to deploy people. Some of these infectious diseases could be threat agents. An adversary could turn these into, a weapon of their choice. So we need to be prepared for all these things. So I think vaccines will continue to be important and probably will become more important. And within those research areas, as I said, infectious disease, things like brain health are very important. Burns and other trauma, blood and blood products, as I mentioned before, medical countermeasures, not only to infectious disease, but also to chemical warfare agents. These things will continue to be very, very important.
And shifting gears to a recent tech transfer success that got some attention in our community, you and your team won a 2023 FLC Award for Excellence in Tech Transfer for the Estimated Core Temperature, or temp, Individual Heat Acclimation Training Tool, or IHAT invention. What makes this innovation stand out among other commercializations that you've participated in?
Well, there you had a nice sample of Army acronyms, temp and IHAT. We couldn't survive in DOD without lots of acronyms. But this is just shown to be itself to be a great technology. This was created by the US Army Research Institute of Environmental Medicine at MRDC, and in partnerships with the UK Royal Navy and the Royal Netherlands Army. And the U.S. Army is still looking at this technology. In fact, they're planning some field tests coming up soon. But heat stress is really injurious and deadly, not only to the military but also to a lot of civilians. A lot of injuries, a lot of death. You can monitor things like body or core temperature with thermometers attached to your skin. There are even sensors that you can swallow to measure core temperature. But these things are cumbersome. The sensors that you swallow are very, very expensive, and they're not particularly accurate. The temp and the IHAT are sensor-based technologies that work together to reduce the risk of heat stroke and death in warfighters and in civilians. The temp monitors a person's estimated core body temperature. That's where the ECT comes from. It monitors this over time, and it can learn to identify early stages of exertional heat or stress or illness. IHAT is the Individual Heat Acclimatization Training Tool. There's where that acronym comes in. And this provides personalized training and real-time feedback using the temp algorithm and a smartphone. So it's something that is very available, not only to DOD personnel, but also to civilians. I mean, pretty much everybody has a smartphone these days. And the Royal Netherlands Army is already using this technology, so it's really showing its value in military cases, and hopefully we'll get a partner, a civilian partner, to license this and put it out there for civilian use.
And just to put a finer point on it, I have to point out that Dr. Paul Michaels, director of AMRDC MTT, the Medical Tech Transfer Office, has been quoted to say that this was one of the best examples of teamwork across multiple organizations that I've seen during my tenure as director of medical technology transfer. So, as an extra accolade there.
Yeah, it's a great technology. It born in the Army based on an Army need, and it's a unique solution, and it's so available. You get on a smartphone.
And there's nothing easier than something that's on a smartphone that we have with us all the time.
Right.
And what has been the impact of winning an FLC award for your office or any of the other entities involved?
I think it's motivation for the inventors, but I don't know that we have fantastic scientists in the Army and in the DOD, and everybody's working really hard on their projects. I don't know that these folks need more motivation, but every once in a while, getting an award like this it's really nice. It's kind of like icing on the cake. But I should say, since I'm talking about motivation for inventors, I spend time at university tech transfer offices. And when they do a license, there's a lot of, revenue comes in from these licenses. And that always goes out to various things in the offices, the universities, pay off back patent expenses and things like that. In the Army, in the DOD, the DHA, and in the federal government, so NIH for that matter, it's the opposite. The money comes to the inventors first. And that's, if we get 1 penny in licensing revenue, it goes to the inventors first. So if anybody out there is thinking about a career in science and you want to be a researcher, you might want to think about the Army, because I've never seen that anywhere except for the federal government of the United States, including the DOD.
It's an excellent point. Is there anything else, while we're on the topic, that you would want people to know about working within your office or your agency that may not be widely known?
Before I got to the Army, I had no idea that the Army and the DOD had as much expertise in genomics as they do. I was just blown away. In fact, one of the technologies that I'm trying to find a partner for right now uses next generation DNA sequencing technology to surveil large numbers of people simultaneously. The goal was to be able to test, for instance, everyone on an aircraft carrier, which could be 5,000, 6,000 people in one day for COVID-19. And this research scientist and his team came up with a way to do that using next generation sequencing, or NGS, one day for as little as $3 to $5 per test. So imagine being able to test actually almost up to 100,000 samples in one day using this technology. It's an amazing technology, and think of the usefulness of this for maybe someone wants to test cruise ships for people getting on, people getting off in one day, maybe for border security, all sorts of things. This is just an excellent use or an excellent area of genomics in the Army. I was just blown away that somebody was able to do this. Other technologies like sepsis. Sepsis is an incredible problem in hospitals. A lot of people get sick and die from sepsis. Well, a team of researchers came up with a way to look at sepsis in burn patients, which no one had done before. But their goal is to have pre-diagnosis, pre-screening for sepsis. People who are going to get sick from sepsis, who don't have sepsis yet, but are burn patients. And a team put together a bunch of biomarkers with an algorithm, and they're able to predict sepsis days before sepsis starts. So you can actually start thinking about treating these people before they get really sick. And this technology still requires an industry partner. We're looking for that partner, but this is another technology that we're quite excited about.
Really incredible just to hear all of the things that so many minds can put together, that it just takes all kinds I would never dream of. Shifting to sort of a broader view of federal tech transfer, within this constantly changing landscape, people and organizations across the innovation ecosystem have to constantly learn and adapt to address new challenges. In your opinion, what is the biggest challenge facing the federal tech transfer community today?
I would have to say, and it's probably the same problem that university tech transfer offices have, and that is getting early stage technologies to the point that industry partners are willing to license them. And, our strategy has been to utilize assistive technology transfer, helping those partners with, we're not going to just leave you hanging after you sign the license. So we need to convince our partners that we're willing to do that. But funding is an issue. The Army, DOD, DHA, NIH, everyone has the same problem because there just isn't an infinite amount of money. So researchers are as efficient as possible with the money that they have, but we just always need more money, it seems. But just being smart and effective with the way that you use the dollars that you have is really the only thing that we can do.
What do you see at this point as some of the biggest strengths and assets within the federal T2 community?
From the MRDC DHA standpoint, especially with infectious diseases, access to unique equipment and facilities. I mean, we have BSL 3 and 4 facilities at MRDC and DHA. That's not a lot of institutions and organizations have that. And just, the ability to work with, major infectious diseases and, coming up with, new drugs in the federal government. That's our role. That's our business. And I think that'll certainly continue. But, a lot of universities do this, but really that's our commitment.
Well, Eddie, Diehl, thank you again so much for joining us. I really appreciate this. Has been a mind-expanding conversation to hear the technologies coming out of your office. And we look forward to talking to you again next year to hear more about what you've given us just a little carrot of.
Well, thanks, Andrea. You asked really great questions, and I need you to keep me on my toes once in a while, maybe with once a year with a podcast. But thank you again. To you and to FLC for having me today.
Thanks again to Eddie for this fascinating conversation. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you back in 2 weeks on Transfer Files Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in to the Transfer Files, your insider's look at federal tech transfer. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay connected for more episodes exploring how hundreds of government laboratories and countless industry partners are driving innovations that shape our lives.